Hello, everyone. My name is Catrice Rogerson. Welcome to another episode of Generation Talk. So glad to have you here. I work at Generation USA as the Events and Enrollment Associate. So really just helping plan and execute any events that you can think about where you're able to learn more about us. So open houses, information sessions, even with Generation Talk. So definitely glad to have you here and have you join us. Today, we're going to focus in on the programs that we offer here and just really how they came about. So we are blessed to have our Managing Director of Curriculum and Instruction, Joe Baker. So thank you so much, Joe, for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and get into the questions because I want to be mindful of everyone's time. So Joe, if you can't, well, first, let me also mention, use our chat. I have questions for him that I'm going to ask, but also if you have any that come up regarding our programs, please feel free to utilize the chat and we will acknowledge them once we finish everything. So, Joe, if you don't mind going ahead and introducing yourself and explaining your role with Generation and how you support our learners.
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today. As Catrice mentioned, my name is Joe Baker and the Managing Director of Curriculum and Instruction here at Generation US. What that means is that our team is really responsible for the learning journey of all of our learners. And then supporting the instructors in bringing that learning journey to life. So we're responsible for the stuff that folks learn in our programs and just making it really sticky and memorable and creating a pathway to a life-changing career.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joe, for that. So before I get more into depth regarding our programs, I first just want to touch base on why tech, why now, and really why Generation chose this route.
Yeah, so a majority of the programs that we offer are in the tech space. And, like tech has always been in high demand in the US. But as we learned over the past 18 months, COVID really accelerated that demand. And unlike some other sectors in the job market, tech has proven to be a sector that's less affected by major disruptions like the pandemic. Obviously, we are all sitting right now in our home live streaming this. So there are folks behind the scenes at Zoom, at Facebook, who are making sure that something like this is possible. And so those are the fields that we are training for. Like I think if you look at any sort of job search site, and if you were to type in and search for any of our tech programs, you will literally find thousands of jobs for IT support specialists or cloud practitioners. There are so many jobs out there. And so we just want to do our part in providing the right training for folks to get those jobs.
Awesome. Love that. And then our programs are set up for accelerated boot camp. So can you just shed light on that, please, just in case some individuals aren't familiar with that?
Yeah. If you hear the phrase boot camp, you might be thinking like push-ups and things like that. We're not going to make you do that. But what we mean is that in short, you're going to learn a lot in a shorter amount of time. So whenever we build out one of our programs, we are building them out based on very specific needs from the industry. So that means both the technical skills that employers are looking for, but also the soft skills, like what are the things that are, what behaviors, what mindsets make someone really successful in the role. Once we discover that, we create a program that is targeting those specific skills, and we cut out the fluff. So what that means is we're able to do the most essential training in the shortest amount of time. We do also provide a lot of hands-on practice because we know it's great to learn some new information, but we need the time to actually practice it and internalize it. And so all of that is packed into our programs. It is a lot, like I said, in a short amount of time, but our hope is that we can get you into a career as soon as possible.
Perfect. And so you've already touched base on some of the programs we offer, like the web developer, IT support specialist, junior cloud practitioner, junior full stack developer, digital marketing analyst, and we also have our digital executive assistant. All are just about in the tech realm. How would you say these programs came about? Like, why were they particularly chosen?
Yeah, our programs are driven completely by the market and by employer demand. So employers will come to us and say, we just cannot fill all of our spaces that we have for IT support specialist or full stack developer. And so we need help. And that's where Generation sort of steps in to create those training pipelines. We spend a ton of time really researching what roles are out there. We spend a lot of time talking to employers to understand specifically what it is that they need, and then determining like what the right program is and what the right structure of a program is to create that pipeline of talent out there.
Love that. And so, how was the curriculum developed for each one, the structure and everything?
Yeah, so we engage in this process that we call activity mapping. And what that means is we go through a really extensive job shadowing and interviewing process. So we essentially try to embed ourselves in the role, to learn everything we possibly can about the role. So we want to know exactly what you have to do on a day-to-day basis. We want to know what tech skills you have to exhibit. We want to know what soft skills you have to exhibit. Do you need to communicate a lot? Are you sending emails? Are you presenting to clients? We spend as much time as we possibly can trying to understand the role in its entirety. And then once we do that, that's when we start to create our curriculum so that it's directly aligned to what you have to do in a job. So if you have to stand up every day at the beginning of your job and sort of share out what it is that you're working on, we replicate that in the actual program, where we'll have beginning of the day stand-ups, they're called, where they're actually talking through what it is that they're learning. We're preparing you for that particular aspect of the role. In that activity mapping process, we identify the technical skills. So what platforms do you need to know? What coding languages do you need to know? And like I said, those soft skills, and we integrate those all into the curriculum that is developed.
Okay, perfect. And oftentimes at Generation, we talk about the real world modules. How do we decide on these? And can you please go into detail on what those look like?
Yeah, so I think some like great examples of that are we always have case studies and role plays and simulations. So for our tech programs, yes, you are going to learn the coding languages, the cloud service platforms, et cetera. But we're also going to root it in the real world. And in the real world, you're going to have to interact with your coworkers. You're going to have conversations with your boss. You're going to have to send emails over to clients that you're serving. And so we build that all into the program too. So you're going to practice having potentially difficult conversations with coworkers and with bosses, with someone playing the role of your boss, because we want to give everybody practice in doing that. So when you're in the real world and in the job, you are prepared to do those really successfully.
Perfect. That's definitely very valuable for sure. And so, of course, we know some learners have never touched tech a day in their lives. So what are some characteristics that are important when selecting a program? What should they think about? And just any key softwares or systems that learners can expect to use during our program?
Yeah, so the systems and the platforms are really going to vary from program to program. But what I can say is, like, my recommendation would be, one, like, spend some time on our website reading through the description of each one of the programs. because not only in there does it talk about sort of what you're going to learn within the program, but it gives you a real like brief snapshot of what does someone actually in this role do. So, you know, it maybe you see junior full stack and you're like, I don't actually really understand what that means. Start at our website, take a look at the description there. And then my recommendation would be to pop over to YouTube or just do a search and literally type in like, what does a full stack developer do? There are a lot of really great videos out there, websites, blogs, etc., that sort of give insight into a day in the life practice. The other piece that I would say is all of our tech courses currently incorporate what we call IT fundamentals. So even if you do not have a formal background in computer science, which you definitely do not need for our programs, you'll still have the opportunity in our program to learn the fundamentals of software, of networking, etc. That serves as sort of a jumping off point for some of the more specialized content in our tech programs. One of our employer partners, I think, sort of said it best when they said, like, if you are able to buy something online from a website, like that, then you have enough tech skill to find success in our programs, because we will provide everything else sort of beyond that.
Okay, great. And I'm pretty sure just about everybody has that, especially during this time. And can you please speak on what the learner journey will look like, what it entails during the day, and then even after the hours of the class has been finished? Like, what could that possibly look like for a learner?
Yeah, well, let me start for sort of first overarching, like big picture from beginning to end of program, and then I can sort of talk a little bit day to day. I think big picture, our programs, while they vary in overall length, generally at the beginning are some introductory courses. We start to talk about what are the behavioral skills and mindsets, the softer skills that are really essential for the role you're training for, do some introduction to the role, the IT fundamentals component that I talked about. And then as the program goes on, that's where we get into sort of more detail, both technical detail, as well as starting to practice embodying some of those soft skills in real world scenarios. The other piece in this overarching arc is around what we call employment essentials. So resume, LinkedIn, preparing for interviews, etc. At the beginning of our program, we're working on supporting learners in creating that resume. Over time, we're perfecting that resume. We're getting folks ready for interviews. We're practicing interviews, etc. On a day-to-day basis, we have two options for some of our programs right now, either a full-time option or a part-time option. The full-time option is sort of 9 to 5 program, and then our part-time option is 3 evenings per week, plus additional sort of homework, so to speak, outside of those 3 evenings. All of our programs, whether they are full-time or part-time, include a combination of what we call synchronous or asynchronous work. Synchronous is like this. You are on Zoom, you are engaging in class with your instructor, with your peers. You're able to talk to one another, ask questions of your instructor. It's like an actual classroom, just put online. Asynchronous means that that is sort of time that you are working on your own. We have a whole sort of platform website built out that contains the content. Some of that you're working through on your own. You're doing some labs or practice or simulations on your own, and then preparing to sort of bring those learnings back to the next synchronous class. So that exists for both part-time and full-time programs, that combination of sort of live and independent work.
Perfect. And then lastly, what type of classroom support are set up for learners just to make sure they do not fall behind if you have some individuals that are struggling during the process?
Yeah, it's a great question. So there are lots of folks in the generation family whose role is to support you. So our learners, of course, have their instructor, who's sort of the main leader of developing content knowledge and understanding of the soft skills. Our instructors are then also supported by teaching assistants. So those teaching assistants can provide another layer of support. Study skills, can create study groups, small groups, individual check-ins with learners as well. Beyond the sort of content of the program, we also have career coaches and life coaches. So our career coaches are there to support in a lot of the things I mentioned before. So individualized support for resumes, for interview prep, being able to do some like mock interviews with you. And then our life coaches are also available to provide support for anything that may sort of fall outside the buckets that we talked about as well. Potentially struggling with childcare, with planning for transportation to a job in the future. All of those things our life coaches can also support with for anyone who needs it. The last support I would mention as well is we have someone who's called a learner ombuds. So any other issue that sort of pops up that anyone who I mentioned already, if they're not the best path to follow for support, that learner ombuds is there as an additional layer of support for our learners and can act as a neutral party in whatever the instance may be.
Love that. So as you can see, we definitely have some great support and resources here at Generation. And last thing with our programs, just about all of them come with a certification that you do receive after you've completed it. How did these come about? Like why were these certifications chosen for each program?
Yeah, so like you said, all of our programs, we prepare all of our learners to take the certification, and those certifications vary from program to program. For instance, in our IT support specialist program, we're teaching content aligned to the CompTIA A+ certification, which is a sort of industry recognized certification. And so that sort of speaks to the larger approach with certification. We, in this process of talking to employers as we build our programs, we ask a lot about certification, and we ask like, what's going to be most appealing to you as an employer, if of certifications that someone could put on their resume, like what's going to cause you to take a second look at that resume. And so that is really the driving force behind the certifications that we choose. We look at what employers are asking for, and we look at alignment to the content that we're teaching in our programs as well.
Perfect. And then just lastly, any advice that you would give to someone that's watching us right now, see the video later on, and how they can successfully complete Generation? Just any advice you have to potential learners.
Yeah, I would. Well, one, what I mentioned before of like spending some time looking at the different programs that are out there, and doing some digging into what that actually means. For instance, a couple of years ago, I had no idea what digital marketing meant. But now like if you're someone who loves social media and TikTok and spending time on Snapchat, like look at digital marketing, because that is all tied. It's folks who are building out campaigns digitally, advertisements on social media. It's a really great pathway for folks who are interested in sort of entrepreneurship, and folks who are interested in sort of, how can I make social media part of my career? I had no idea. So I would encourage folks to do some digging into these programs and find out, well, what is it that they actually do? And you may find some things in these programs that are hugely interesting to you. The other piece I would say is like, don't be afraid to join Generation and apply for a program. Like I said before, yes, these are jobs that are in the tech field, and that can feel really daunting and overwhelming. If you're someone like me, it's like, I have my phone and I know that it works, but I don't know how it works. Don't let that intimidate you, because the skills that we are teaching in our programs are there to support you and to set you on the path to careers in the tech field.
Awesome. Some great advice, Joe. So thank you so much for that. So those are all the questions that I have for Joe right now. Definitely at this time, if you would like to utilize the chat, please do so. We have someone, Joe, that asks, what's the difference between a full stack developer and a junior web developer?
It's a great question. So the full stack program is actually a longer version of our web developer program. So the full stack is about an additional 3 weeks. And in those additional 3 weeks, you start to look at both like sort of front end design as well as sort of back end design. So it's a more thorough learning journey for full stack versus junior web developer, which is focused more on front end.
Awesome. We have John who asks, do you offer financial help for student certification exam fee after the program?
Yes, absolutely. So with the CompTIA certification, for instance, we do provide vouchers for learners to take that certification.
Next, we have Angela. Are the classes recorded so that if we would like to go back to review after the program is completed, like they're able to do so?
That's a great question. It varies somewhat from program to program and instructor to instructor. Generally, yes, it is available for folks to do because we partner with community colleges all over the country. There is a little bit of variation, but generally, yes, that is available.
Awesome.
Oh, and one additional thing. After the program is completed, they're available in program. If there's something that you miss, obviously that's something that you can speak to the instructor about. Post program, again, that's going to depend upon sort of program by program, cohort by cohort.
All right. And we have Kat who says, what certification will we study for the Junior Cloud Practitioner program?
Yeah, so the Junior Cloud Practitioner program is aligned to AWS, Amazon Web Services. So within the realm of cloud computing, Amazon Web Services, or AWS, is the largest that is out there. And just so the vast majority of jobs in cloud computing are directly related to AWS. So the certification that we provide in our Junior Cloud Practitioner program is the AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner exam.
Thank you. Love the engagement and the questions, everyone. We have how it works, the job placement. How does the job placement after graduation work for the Junior Web Developer program?
Yep. So placement looks similar for all of our programs, not just Junior Web Developer, JWD. So we, as I was mentioning before, all the learners have support from our career coaches throughout. And then we also have an entire placement team at Generation who are working with employers and can provide sort of connections to employers and do anything that we can to sort of set y'all up with interviews for employment. There's a couple other programs that are out there that we provide pathways into apprenticeships or internships. So that's another potential outcome for some of our programs. And again, like we have folks at Generation who are there to support and facilitate that process, no matter which path folks decide to follow.
Perfect. Then we have Elijah who asks, is React taught in the junior web developer program?
It's a great question. So we're getting into the weeds a little bit of
Yeah.
specific content in our programs. I don't have the exact overview pulled up in front of me. I can, we can follow up and I can tell you explicitly yes or no. I can find that out right afterwards.
Okay, perfect. And Elijah, honestly, we'll be dropping in the chat our Google form. So if you don't mind filling it out, we'll have your contact information and we'll be able to send it over to you. Angela asks, can you join multiple programs, for example, the daytime program or cohort in one subject, and then the evening part-time junior cloud practitioner?
Well, I'm trying to think about this both logistically, if that's possible, and then whether or not it's something that I would recommend. Logistically, there is a world that could happen. So some of our programs are 9 to 5, and then we also have programs that are 6 to 9 in the evening. So as far as hours in a day, theoretically, you could do more than one. I guess my personal word of caution is in all of our programs, because a lot of content is sort of packed into a short amount of time, I would probably advise you to think about you potentially stacking them, doing one and then the other, as opposed to trying to do two at once. I think it might be a little overwhelming and just challenging to do. We do have multiple learners who have stacked different programs that be sort of back to back. We started with JWD, junior web developer, and then decided they wanted to do cloud practitioner, etc. So that is something that learners have done as well.
Yeah, Angela, we're not going anywhere. So if you want to take it one at a time, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, the teacher in me, Angela, worries of oh my gosh, that might be too much on your plate at any one time. So I personally would advise against doing two at once.
Yes. And then Lisa, she missed your answer. So can you please repeat what is the difference between full stack developer and junior web developer?
Yeah, the short answer to that is a full stack program is a longer, more extensive version of the junior web developer program. So the full stack is an additional 3 weeks of content to sort of dig into the weeds a little bit more. If you are looking for more of an introductory program, then I would do JWD. If you want to go just gain even more skills beyond that, I would go the full stack route.
Perfect. And then we have another one. How long is the part-time study as opposed to the full-time?
Yeah, good question. So all of our programs vary a little bit in overall length. So for instance, the IT support specialist program, or actually, let me talk about junior cloud practitioner. So our junior cloud practitioner program, you're going full-time, that is 10 weeks. So that's 10 weeks, 9 to 5, a combination of synchronous and asynchronous work, as I was talking about, so live and sort of on your own. Part-time, that program is 18 weeks. So the part-time model, it's 3 evenings per week. And then there's on top of those 3 evenings, there's about 9 to 10 hours each week of asynchronous work. When you complete that in that week is flexible, but 3 evenings per week plus the asynchronous work. So 10 weeks full-time, 18 weeks part-time. So that's for the junior cloud practitioner program. As of today, all of our other programs are just running on the full-time model, but we do have some additional part-time models coming up in the upcoming months for junior web developer and IT support specialist. So you'll see those cohorts announced on the website.
Awesome. What is the possibility of part-time programs becoming available
Oh,
to all programs? And when do you anticipate the digital marketing for part-time in the future?
it's great. Just what I was talking about. So we're really excited about part-time programs. Prior to, gosh, it was even, I think, just August, September, we were only running sort of full-time programs for our tech programs. Looking into 2022, it's something that we want to do. We want to have part-time offerings for a majority of our programs. So while I don't have an exact date for digital marketing, I would say be on the lookout in 2022 for that program to also offer a part-time option. But this is great to hear as well, because if more and more learners are telling us we need to have part-time programs, then we will offer more and more part-time as opposed to full-time programs.
For sure. Lisa asks, is there a waiting period between doing multiple programs? For example, if a person does the one program and then decides they want to do one of the other programs as well, how long does one have to wait before applying again?
No waiting period. So you can stack them literally one right after the other if that is something that you are that you're hoping to pursue.
Yes. A lot of great questions, everyone. Thank you so much. We definitely appreciate your participation and engagement. I'm not seeing any more, so I definitely just want to thank Joe so much for taking his time out to give us this information. Thank you all for joining us. As I mentioned, we will be dropping the link into our Google form. So basically fill that out with your information. And then also we're giving you the opportunity to choose another topic for us for Generation Talk. So please make sure you take advantage of that. And join us next week. We will be talking about career readiness and placement and really going more into detail about that. If you heard Joe when he mentioned about our career coaches and individuals of that nature. So definitely would be a great one, 1 p.m. Eastern time next Wednesday. So thanks again, everyone, and you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks all. Take care. Hope to see you in a Generation classroom soon.
Yes. Bye.